But
Hey everyone, my name is Suzanne. I'm an alcoholic. Um, I'm so excited to introduce our speaker today. Our speaker, Mary, I've had the pleasure of sponsoring her for a bit now. And what I want to say about Mary is that, you know, we come in and hopefully we've hit some sort of sufficient bottom so that we can just be willing to hear this message, to hear the solution. And and my experience is that is what happened. But what I was surprised by was that I started working my program and I was never cured. I was never not an alcoholic. I continued to be batshit crazy, right? So then you really start becoming open to taking suggestions and doing things outside of your comfort zone. And a lot of the suggestions are, work with another alcoholic, um, get, service positions, and fellowship, right? And what is what has been such an honor and a joy in working with Mary is that she takes all of those suggestions. And so I know for me and with some other alcoholics, we can get on what I call like the crazy loop, right? Where we'll get an idea, we'll get a good idea, and that idea will just keep showing up in different facets over and over and over again. And a lot of the times, even though we had that psychic change where that relieved us of the obsession to drink, we have to have mini psychic changes to relieve us of the obsession of whatever it is that we're looping out on. And what I get to experience with Mary firsthand over and over again is that in our sponsorship sessions, and something will come up, and then we'll talk about the solution, and y'all, like, she does it. I mean, it's amazing. She does it. And this is a woman who many of you know is very active in the community, very active in fellowship, started a meeting, has sponsees, all of those things. So I can't even tell you what an honor it is to witness firsthand someone who comes in alcoholically with their little loops, but then has the miniature psychic changes and is ready to move on to the next thing and be open and be of service. Because for me and I have a whole like bag full of bad ideas. I need to see you all working your programs, and I need to see it working, and I need to see it like over and over again. It can't be like you do it one time and I get to like I've learned and now I'm done. I have to see it constantly. And so what a pleasure, honor, and joy it is to get to work with someone who is is always going back to the solution, and has a grand, full, open life to demonstrate it. So, anyways, with that, I give you Mary, and that's all I got.
I'm Mary. I'm an alcoholic. So I found out I was speaking last night at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I tried to get out of it because I just spoke 4 months ago, and I was like, no one wants to hear me speak again, least of all me. But I always figured that like if an opportunity presents itself to me, then I need to jump on it. And so I said yes. And so here I am. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time with what it was like because I feel like I've gone over that over and over again, but just to kind of qualify myself for this program. And as an alcoholic, I started drinking when I was 15. Right from the beginning, I drank like an alcoholic. As soon as I started, I couldn't stop. It had consequences on my life. I would, leave school in high school, go down to the beach and drink all day and, rinse, repeat, do the same thing over and over again. Got to the point where I dropped out of high school when I was halfway through my junior year because I wanted to be able to party more. Um, that didn't really work out for me too well. I kept trying to change my situation, thinking that it was something outside of me that was the problem instead of the fact that it was me. So, I got to the point in, I grew up in San Diego and I had a lot of fun. I would go down to Mexico and get fucked up and do stupid things and end up in really bad situations and get myself out of it and swear I was never going to do that again and then go back and do it again. And so when I turned 18, I thought that it would be a good idea for me to get away from the people and places that I was, using and drinking with. And so I moved up to Montana and very quickly was able to find the same situations that I was in San Diego. I found a bar with people that drank like I drank and just fell back into the same kinds of situations I was in before. And I'm not the kind of person that ever tried to hide my drinking. I definitely hid my drug use, but I figured that like drinking's acceptable. And if I'm distracting you with my drinking, you don't know the other things that I'm doing. And so I was never like a closet drinker. I never tried to tell people I was drinking less than I was drinking. I was a bar drinker for a long time. So everyone saw me out and that over the years, so I drank for 29 years. At first, it was fun, and then I started having a lot of depression and, tried to kill myself a couple times and started having I had some physical problems from alcohol that I didn't realize were associated with alcohol until I quit drinking. I started getting ulcers when I was in my early 20s, which I guess that's not supposed to happen. I had a lot of stomach problems. And, so over the years, I thought that what I was doing was acceptable because I surrounded myself with people that drank the same way I did. And if people didn't drink the same way I did, I didn't really associate with them because I really didn't know how to be around people if I wasn't drinking. And if they weren't drinking, I was just like, I didn't trust them. And I didn't want to be, and like they'd remember things, if you're with people that are just as fucked up as you, they don't remember the stupid shit you do because they're doing the same thing. So, I was really good at making things look okay from the outside. I I was married, I had two kids, I raised my kids, they always went to school, they were fed. I went to went to college, I had a good job. And I thought I was holding things together, but all the time I was making things look okay on the outside and I was dying on the inside. And it got to a point where I was completely miserable. My kids were both teenagers, which is, if anyone has had teenagers, that is not an easy time. um I was going through that like, oh my God, my kids are going to be gone in a few years. I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do with my life because I've spent so much time focusing on them. And I hated my job, I hated my husband. um and so, like any good alcoholic, I decided to completely blow up my life. um and I had also had really bad back pain. I was in a car accident when I was 24, 25. It was 24. It was right before I got pregnant with my son, and had my back fused when I was 28, and suffered from really bad back pain my whole life. And so I had gotten addicted to painkillers. I also went to school to become a pharmacist and was working in a pharmacy. And those two things are a very bad combination. And I started, with me, with my ego, I thought I could get away with it. And I did get away with it for way longer than I should have. I got away with stealing drugs from the pharmacy for almost a year before they caught me. Um, and the day they caught me was probably the most humiliating day of my life. I thought I was going in for an exit interview because I had quit my job because I was ready to throw everything away and take off and leave my family. And but I was going to do it responsibly, so I quit my job first and gave them 2 weeks notice. And so they called me in for an exit interview, and it wasn't an exit interview. They informed me that they had video of me stealing drugs and how long has it been going on. And, at that point, I knew I was caught, and I admitted to them how long it had been going on, which was a very long time, and how much I had taken from them. And they said, okay, well, we're not going to call the cops. And the only reason they didn't call the cops was because I hadn't stolen anything that day and they didn't think I had anything on me, which I did. But um so I kind of got away with that legally. I didn't get away with it financially because I had to draw up a contract with them to pay back the cost of the drugs. And anyone that knows the markup in a pharmacy, it's fucking ridiculous. Like, we pay pennies for the drugs, and then the cost to the consumer is 100 times more than what it costs. So I had to pay that price. And I was like, okay, I'll do what I have to do. They did report me to the board. I lost my pharmacy license. I was given the opportunity to go to treatment. And my thinking at the time was, if I go to treatment, they're going to make me quit drinking. And I'm not an alcoholic. I'm a drug addict. So I don't need to quit drinking. And if I quit drinking, what the fuck will I have? Like, that's my God-given right as a fucking human being to be able to drink alcohol. And that's really bad thinking, but that's where I was at the time. So I did end up losing my license. I went, kind of went a little crazy. It was I got a retirement from the company I was working for, and spent most of it on traveling and going to Grateful Dead shows. Um, and figured that when that was over, I could just kill myself. I left my family, left my kids, and took off. And I ended up down in San Diego, and um, it was probably the darkest time in my life. I was extremely depressed. I was completely psychotic. The things that were going through my head were just completely insane. And I did my best to drink myself to death. And, and all the time I was doing this, I didn't really think I was drinking that much. It wasn't until I couldn't walk and couldn't think, couldn't function, and went into the hospital, and they started doing all these tests on me and found out that I had no vitamin B left in my body. And I mean, I think a lot of people know that one of the major things with alcohol is it depletes our vitamin B. And when it's all gone, you can have some really bad neurological damage. And that's what happened to me. I also, from some of the drugs I was taking, ended up having a stroke. I was not able to walk. I was in the hospital for a week. Um, they couldn't really figure out what was wrong with me. But I was, I think I was honest with them. I don't think I was honest about how much I was drinking, but I was honest with them about the drug use. And um, I don't really remember. Like, I don't really remember those couple of weeks because it was so it's just it's so weird going from being a functioning human being to someone who can't hold a pen and can't think straight and can't walk and becoming completely dependent on someone else to take care of you. So I had a long road to recovery after that. um, I was living with my dad at the time, so he was taking me to physical therapy a couple times a week. I was using a walker. I had to use a walker for a number of months. It took a really long time for me to get my balance back. Anyone that's had neurological damage knows that your nerves grow back really slowly. They do grow back, but it's just really slowly, and it's a very long recovery. Um, I didn't quit drinking after this, but I did kind of slow down because I couldn't physically like function if I drank. And and I have a dad who's very good at enabling me in anything. So if I'd ask him to go get me a drink, he'd go get me a drink. Um, but it took me, so that was 2016. It took me 2 years before I got to the point where I wanted to quit drinking. And so it was 2018. I was, I was kind of just a binge drinker at this point. So it wasn't like the everyday drinking where I had to have alcohol. But whenever I did drink, I would drink to the point where I'd end up in places that I shouldn't be. I'd end up doing things I shouldn't be doing. And my last drunk, I was up at my family cabin at Flathead Lake and got really drunk with one of my nephews and, just made a complete fool out of myself. And woke up the next morning like the worst hangover because towards the end, my hangovers were not just like I feel bad for a couple of hours. It was I'm sick for like 2 or 3 days. And so I woke up the next morning puking and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't, I hate myself. I can't look myself in the mirror and I need to stop. And so I stopped. I did not go to AA. I did not think I was an alcoholic. I just knew that whenever I drank, I did stupid things and maybe I shouldn't drink anymore. And I was lucky that I had a boss at the time who was a recovering alcoholic. And so while I didn't come into AA for a couple of years after that, I did have someone that I could talk to and who could show me how to like kind of live a sober life. Then COVID happened and I lost that. I mean, I was still working there, but it was only part time. It was at a restaurant and we weren't open the whole time during COVID. So I wasn't seeing her. I was going through some other hard things in my life. My dad got really sick. Um, he had sepsis and some heart issues. Was in the hospital for about a month, and I had to quit my job so I could take care of him, and started going completely insane because at that point, um, the only it was 2021. So like really the only interactions I was having with people was at work, and that was very small. I had like 4 or 5 coworkers and about 30 dogs that I took care of. And so I became completely isolated, just taking care of my dad, taking him to doctor's appointments, and my thinking got really, really messed up at this point. And I also quit opiates about 6 months after I quit drinking, um, which was very difficult to do. But I did still have a bottle of pills next to my bed, and because just in case, like you never know when you might need some painkillers, and they're so hard to get from the doctor, so I might as well just keep these. And I was getting to the point where I was contemplating suicide, and I was going insane. And I felt like if I told anyone what was going on in my head, that they were going to commit me. Um, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a solution. I just thought that, like, this is it. Like, I'm done. And luckily at that time, one of my friends showed up in town, and her parents were also sick, and she had to take care of them. And I've known her forever. Um, and we started talking, and she was listening to me rant and rave about how fucked up my dad is, and I can't believe that he's doing this to me, and all my resentments. And then, like, my mom did this and this and this, and my fucking sister, and she was like, I know you don't think you're an alcoholic, but why don't you just come to a meeting with me and see? And I was like, no. I was like, no, no, no. Like, I went to an Al Anon meeting a few years before, because my husband at the time was an alcoholic. And I was very turned off by the word God. Um, they did the Lord's Prayer at the end of the meeting, and I was just like, no, I'm not doing this. And besides, it was his problem, so why should I go to Al Anon? Um, And so, I was like, okay, I was so desperate at that time that I was willing to try anything. And I went to an early, well, the 8 a.m. meeting with her. And this was when people were still wearing masks. It was still, kind of COVID times. I think it was right about the time that they came out with vaccines. Um, so the meetings were still kind of small. And I I hear people say, like, oh, I came into AA and I was like surrounded by love, and all these people just like took care of me and blah blah. That didn't happen to me. um I came in, it was mostly a bunch of old men. I went to a lot of meetings. I went to a lot of different meetings, because I was like, there have got to be women my age in AA. Like, where the fuck are they? Apparently, they were all online. So everyone was doing online. And I didn't know. I had no idea. And that wouldn't have worked for me anyways. I've got ADHD. So, like, if someone's not right in front of me, I'm not paying attention to them. And so if they're on a screen, then it's not going to happen. Um, but eventually it got to the point where I was able to start meeting some more women in the program. And I went to a lot of meetings and heard a lot of good things. I heard, even though I was going to meetings with people that I didn't think were anything like me, I started hearing people tell my story, and um, realized that, if these people, because, you go into AA and you look around and everyone looks like they got their shit together. And I felt like I did not have my shit together at all when I came in. And I was really uncomfortable. I couldn't sit still. And I'm looking around at all these people, and I'm like, there's no way they ever went through the shit that I went through. And then I started hearing their stories and realizing that actually they did. And they've come out the other side. And so all I need to do is follow what they did because, I'm the kind of person that's like, I will find a better way to do just about everything. I do not need instructions. Like my ideas are always great. And so, I for once was like, okay, I'm going to start listening to what these people are saying to do. And I'd hear the same things, go to meetings, get a sponsor, work the steps, get a service position. And I wasn't I was pretty sure that those things weren't going to work for me. And it took me a while to find a sponsor that I could work with. I did have a couple of sponsors early on, and they weren't good fits for me, and I was really uncomfortable, and I have a lot of trust issues, and I felt like I couldn't trust them, and which was all me, but it wasn't until I did find someone that I'd heard her story. She had told her story, and I was like, oh, okay, she's done way worse things than I have. So like she's not gonna judge me, like I'm gonna be able to tell her these things that I don't want to tell anyone, they're like things that I swore I was going to take to the grave. But I found someone that I knew was not going to tell other people what I said, and wasn't going to use the information against me, which was, the way I grew up with my mom and my sister. I had to be very careful about any information I gave them because it was going to be used against me. And I found people in the rooms I could talk to where that wasn't the case. And that that was that helped me a lot. I've I've been in AA for almost 3.5 years, and I've had to go through some really difficult situations. And the past month and a half has been one of the most difficult situations. And, each time I have to go through something hard, like I always have to tell myself this is another fucking opportunity for growth, because I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like I'm done. I'm done with the opportunities for growth. And they came a lot closer together and a lot more intense when I was early in sobriety. My first, I don't know, first couple of months, I had, like, my brother-in-law died after I'd been in here only like 3 months, and my dad was sick, and some with my daughter, like my daughter's, yeah. Um, Kids are fun. You should all have them. And um, at that point, I dealt with things so much differently than I do now. I was I was so uncomfortable dealing with what was going on that, I'm like, well, I can't drink, can't do drugs, so how else can I act out? Because I don't want to feel the way I feel. And that's my thinking is always like, what can I do to make myself feel better right now? And so, I got myself into a bad relationship that was just stupid. And because that was really good at distracting me from what I needed to be doing, which is working on myself. And today, when these things come up, Suzanne and I just started working together, I don't know, a while ago, like 6 months ago or something, but I'm redoing my steps, and I'm just on the fourth step right now, and we're doing it a little differently, but the big thing for me is having to learn how to surrender to what's going on and not being in control of everything in my life. And that does not come naturally to me. My first instinct is always like, what can I do to fix this? And here's my solution. And I'm sure it's the best solution. And usually that's not the case. I actually like call my sponsor now when something's going wrong, which I mean, not all the time, because usually I like forget about it. And then we'll meet for sponsorship and she's like, what's going on? And I'm like, oh, nothing. And then I was like, oh wait, yeah. um, but the things that used to throw me into a tailspin, now I'm able to just deal with it. It's like, okay, well, this is what's going on. And I can either get all wrapped up in what I think someone else is supposed to do, or what the situation is and how I think that it should be changed, and, get all involved in it, or I can just, sit back and not give my opinion, um, give my support to people that need support, and not, try to fix things for other people, which is really hard for me. But so, when I came in, I kept hearing, there's these three sides to the triangle, and I wasn't really sure what that meant. You see unity, service, recovery, and I am not a very social person. Like, I am not the person that's going to go up to every new person that comes in and be like, hey, how you doing? That's just not me. And anyone that knows me knows that. Like, I'm, you know, I'm a little like wary of people when I first meet them. So the unity thing is still something that well, and it's funny because I'm pretty much around other recovering alcoholics all the time because I work for one. And then, I'm at lots of meetings, and most of my friends are in recovery. But I still have a hard time reaching out to people. I'm having a hard time, like I don't want to. When they told me to call people when I came in, I was like, no. Um, like, no, what the fuck do I say to people? Like, you call them up and you're like, hey, how's it going? Like, and then it's like, good, okay, all right, bye. Like, I just don't know. I don't even know what to say. And also my thinking is always that I'm a burden to other people. And if I call someone up, like, they're not going to want to talk to me. Luckily, that thinking has gone away. And I always hear in the rooms that if you want self-esteem, do esteemable acts. And for me, what that looks like is, I go to meetings. When I get asked to chair, I chair the meeting. I don't always share at every meeting, but there's some I feel a little bit more comfortable sharing in. Um, I have a sponsor. I meet with my sponsor pretty much every week. I have sponsees. I meet with them every week, and I've been really fortunate that I've had three sponsees that I've taken all the way through the steps. And for me, that is so, well, one of them's halfway through the steps. But that has been so helpful for me, because every time I do it, I learn something more about myself. Like, I'm not just helping them, I'm helping myself too. And I I have one sponsee who pretty much does like everything I tell her, and it's great. I love it. Um, and like she even does stuff that I don't do, and it's like it's so inspiring to have a sponsee that is just all in. Because like not everybody does that. Um, you hear people say like come in and quit fighting everything and everyone, and I think for alcoholics that's really hard to do. Like I want to have something that I can fight, because that is a way to distract myself from what I really need to do. That's what how I can distract myself from working on myself, is if I can find something outside of me that needs attention. And yeah, yeah. So going through the steps this time, the I always have a hard time talking about the second step because I don't know. I think that higher power is so individualized for each person. And I definitely have a very clear idea of mine because of certain situations that I've had, including like a near death experience. But I feel weird talking to other people about it because well, one, I'm afraid people are going to look at me like I'm insane. Um, and two, it's so personal and it's so individualized. But the principle behind that second step is hope. And that's what I found the first couple meetings that I came in here. I looked around at these people that I thought never could have had the problems I had, and realized that there's a way out. And before that, I didn't think there was a way out. I was never looking for a solution to like make my life better. I was just looking for a solution on how to survive, because that's all I knew how to do, was get from one day to the next. And didn't care about growth, didn't care about, you know, anything beyond, where am I gonna, what am I gonna do when I wake up in the morning? Do I have enough drugs and alcohol to get me through the day? Because that's all that really mattered. Um, and so coming into this program, seeing that people could get out of that cyclical thinking, that like Groundhog's Day was what gave me the hope to want to go on and do the other steps, because it's like no one really wants to like look at all the fucked up shit that we've done in our lives and see what our part is. um right before I quit drinking, I got into this situation at work, and the guy that owned the place like sexually assaulted one of the girls that we worked with. And I'm up in arms and I'm gonna fucking kill this guy. And I'm telling my dad about it, and I'm like, yeah, there's a situation. He's like, what'd you get yourself into this time? And I was like, fuck you. Like, this has nothing to do with me, but when I went through the steps, I'm able to look at those situations that I thought had absolutely nothing to do with me and see that I did play a part. And every situation I put myself into, I have a part in that, even if it is just showing up at a place where I shouldn't be showing up, or, seeing the red flags and not paying attention to that. Because before I got clean and sober, I was really good at ignoring the red flags. I'd get that feeling in the pit of my stomach that I shouldn't be somewhere, I shouldn't be doing something. And because it was something I wanted, I ignored it. And then things got bad. And that was, pretty much all my life until I came in here and started doing an inventory and realizing that, I put myself into these situations and, yeah, maybe something bad happened to me that wasn't my fault, but I, like I knew better. Most of the time it was like I knew better and I decided to ignore it. And so yeah, you know, for me, like I then, I got to the sixth and seventh step and I when the first time I did my inventory, I did my fifth step and the my sponsor wrote out all these things about me. I call it a mean girl letter. Um, because it was like every like bad thing about me and I read it over and I was like, I don't know, I think this might be more about you than me, but um it was definitely like something to look at, and it was supposedly old ideas, and they were really old ideas because a lot of the stuff was from years before. And so I got a little prickly. And then I realized, when I get to the sixth and seventh step, that I've got all these character defects that are really good at showing up when I feel uncomfortable. And one of those is being defensive and trying to justify things. And there's a speaker out of Las Vegas, and he talks about like if you're explaining things, if you're justifying something, you're wrong. And that was really hard for me because I've always got a great explanation for whatever is going on and I can justify the shit out of something. And I had to realize that, okay, if I'm embellishing some situation to make myself look better or to get myself out of trouble, or, and for me, it's usually to keep myself out of trouble. Like that's what I will do. I learned that at the age of like 2, because my mom had a very bad temper. And so I needed to do everything I could to keep myself safe. And that just, goes over into my adult life where if someone gets a little bit upset, like I freak out and I'm losing it and I have to get out of there. And so those are all things that I had to look at as far as character defects go. And I hear someone talk in the 8 a.m. meeting about how when he quit drinking, he didn't go into a program right away. And his wife was like, you can practice your character defects a lot better when you're sober. And I was like, yep, yeah, when I'm not working a program, I'm really good at like, I got a sharp tongue and you're going to feel it. And so, these are all things that I have to look at in the sixth and seventh step. And, for me, um, making amends with a lot of my family, it was living amends. I mean, I made direct amends also, but those aren't the ones that mean something to people. For especially with my kids, it was the living amends and changing my behavior and learning to show up for them in a way that I never could when I was drinking and using. And that's hard because my kids tell me way more stuff than I want to know. Like I'm like, I can't, like I don't need to know this. Just figure it out, and then I'm like, nope, that's what my parents did. They were like, just don't tell me, just figure it out. And, if you need money, here you go. And for me, I'm the opposite. Like, I'm not giving you money, but I will listen to your problems and I'll be there for you. And that is really has made a huge difference in my relationship with my kids. there's some people that like I can't make amends to because I promised a judge I wouldn't talk to them again. So those are ones that I just have to, write a letter and send it up to God. Um, and I started on 10, 11, and 12 before I started on anything else because I had a sponsor who had me read pages 83 to 88 and 98 to 100 every morning. And so I got those, the continue to take personal inventory. And, so like old behavior is not old behavior if I'm still practicing it. It's current behavior. And so, I listen to these, take personal inventory every day so that I'm not doing the same things that I was doing before. Um, and prayer and meditation, I'm probably not great at meditation. Like I'm not, my mind just goes all over the place. But I've used prayer. I never would have thought that I'd say that I ever use prayer for anything, but I use that probably more than anything else because there's times when I can't get a hold of people. And that's the time when I need to be like, okay, it's just me and you, buddy. Like I don't know what to do, but I'll call 10 people and no one will answer. And I'm just like, okay. So that has been really helpful. I actually I was talking to my ex-husband a few weeks ago about our daughter, and he's like, I don't know how to deal with her. And I was like, and I started laughing because I couldn't believe I was going to say this. I was like, the thing that I do the most right before I get on the phone with her is pray. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I just said that. But it works. And so, I'm a science-based person. If I do something and there's a result that I can like see that there's a result from it, well, I mean, that's, that gives me proof that it works. And so I'm really grateful for that. The 12th step, um, yeah, like I said, I'm not the person that reaches out to every newcomer that comes in, but I'll wait till they're around for a little while, and then if they want a sponsor, I'll talk to them. But that's the thing though, like that's the good thing about AA. There's so many different kinds of people, and there are a ton of women in here that are great at like babysitting and taking care of people when they're first sober, and it's not me. And I know that, I know where my strengths lie and I know what I'm not good at. And if I'm not good at something, then I'm going to let someone that's good at it do it. So, that's, yeah, I think that's about all I have. Thanks.